Okay, this is ridiculous, but so much fun. I had two different ways that I was considering making this video. The first way was to literally go off of my taste and choose the fragrance houses that I like the most and rank them accordingly.
Crazy, ridiculous task.
And the second way to conduct this is a little bit more practical and perhaps more realistic, and that is calculating the number of wears for each fragrance in the houses from which I have the most fragrances. We're going with the second option today. As I've actually been doing a lot this year, we are doing ranked videos based on number of wears. I think that is the most authentic and realistic way that I can present to you guys my favorite fragrances, because I wear what I like. If I'm not wearing it, then it must not be one of my favorites. That's simply not true. But I do want to be real with you, and the easiest way to do that is by using the numbers. We use Parfumo.net as usual. Again, not sponsored. They're just how I keep track of my fragrance wearing and how I keep myself honest for myself and my content and for you guys. So I actually will probably do another version of this video based on my taste if you guys want to see it. So make sure you leave a thumbs up on this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think when you get done watching it. And if you want to see a follow-up with a whole new method and a whole new cast of fragrances. Now I've chosen 5 fragrance houses that I feature all the time. As I mentioned, we are compiling the total number of wearings from every fragrance I own in that house to come up with its score, so to speak. And I'm only focusing on fragrances that I currently have in my collection, because I do have from some of these houses fragrances that I used to own. Their wears are still cataloged on Parfumo, but I don't own them anymore. I'm not counting those fragrances. I just got done calculating all of this. Honestly, the results were a little bit shocking, but this is the numbers. This is real. I'm going to rank my 5 favorite brands from least to most worn. So let's get right into it. At number 5, ironically enough, out of all 5 of these houses, this is the house that I have the most fragrances from, which is pretty wild that it's here at number 5, and honestly it shocked me. Out of all 15 of these fragrances, the total number of wearings amount to 51 wearings. That's 51 days out of my life, each dedicated to one of the fragrances from this house. The top 3 most worn fragrances from this house, from 3 to 1, have wearing numbers as follows: 3rd place at 6, 2nd place at 8, 1st place at 11. And the house is Tom Ford. Tom Ford is my 5th most worn fragrance house, at least from what I've calculated to this day. Number 3 is Beau de Jour. Worn this 6 times. Beautiful Fougere fragrance. Number 2 is another Fougere that has kind of taken Beau de Jour's throne just as of this year. Fougere D'Argent. I've worn it 8 total times and I've been loving it this year. And the classy, woody classic 11 wears for Oud Wood. Not the most inspiring fragrance to me from the house, but obviously my most worn, maybe the easiest to wear, but I do find it enjoyable. Let's move on to house number 4. I have 11 fragrances in the 4th place house. The total number of wearings amount to 81 wearings across all the bottles I own from the house. The 3rd place spot is at 10 wearings. The 2nd place spot is 16 wearings, and the 1st place spot is 31 wearings. The house at 4th place is Amouage. At 3rd place with 10 wearings is Enclave. Ironically enough, I have called this my favorite from the house, and it is. Now, favorite doesn't always mean most practically worn, but in terms of a scent that really moves me and has a balance with being very wearable, this is definitely one of them. This is such a unique take on fresh, spicy mint, but with a warm, sweet, ambery, almost ashy, leathery backbone. With 16 wearings is Beach Hut Man. Beach Hut Man is a very green, mossy, minty fragrance. Extremely green, very woody, a little bit vintage smelling. Honestly smells a little bit mature and extremely powerful stuff. Very, very classy. And number 1 goes to the cult classic of the house, that is Reflection Man. 31 wearings for Reflection. This was the first fragrance I ever experienced from the house. You could pretty much call it my first love from the house. I don't wear it a ton these days, but I actually did wear it just the other day. Beautiful white floral fragrance for men. Clean, musky, sweet, a little bit powdery, very smooth, elegant smelling. On to the 3rd place house. I also have 11 fragrances in this house. The total number of wearings sits at 99. Actually, as of today, I'm wearing one of these fragrances as my scent of the day. We're one away from 100 total wearings from this house. The top 3 fragrances stand at number 3 with 16 wearings, number 2 with 17 wearings, and number 1 with 19 wearings. Really close margins here. The third place house is Dior. With 16 wearings, a fragrance that I tried to hate but grew on me right away, and it's become one of my signatures if I could have such a thing. This is Dior Homme 2020. This is kind of polarizing, ironically enough. For as fresh and easy as it is, a lot of people don't like it because of the name it carries. It really has no business having this name, but it is how Dior is redefining their Homme series, and I like it. I'm a fan. Fresh, musky, little citrusy, has this interesting piney resinous feel that makes it a little different from your standard easy breezy masculine designer fragrance. I get decent performance. It's just so easy to wear. I find it very attractive. My wife loves it when I wear it. It's a winner for me. With one extra wearing, even though it's been some time since I've worn this and I plan on wearing it this fall, Dior Homme the original, the 2011 formulation here. Nothing like the 2020. Clean, aromatic, powdery iris, a little sweet. People say it's like lipstick. I totally get that vibe. A little bit waxy, but there is this beautiful leathery chocolate feel as it dries down. One of the most unique scent profiles ever introduced into the mainstream market. This is a timeless masterpiece. And it pains me to say this, but the success of this fragrance in my collection mainly comes from the beginning of my fragrance journey when it got most of its wearings. That is the original Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette. It is a workhorse. It goes without saying. It's one of the most versatile fragrances you can really truly buy. It's like fresh, spicy, upscale shower gel. You know it. You love it or hate it. I don't care for it. I think it's fine. I like Dior Sauvage. I will wear it from time to time. I've worn it once this year, and before that it's been 5 years, but can't deny it's the winner. In second place, I have 7 fragrances from this house, the smallest number of fragrances I have from a house in this lineup at the second spot. So some of these fragrances have some heavy wearing, I'm sure you can imagine. With 131 total wears across all of my wearing in the past several years. The top 3 wearing spots sit at third place 25, second place 31, first place 52. In second place, Parfums de Marly. With 25 wearings, we have Sedley. One of my favorite fresh offerings from the house. It's a minty, almost sugary sweet mandarin orange with this fresh blue ambroxan musky feel that gives it a depth, makes it a little sexy, albeit not the most natural smelling, but very pleasant and performs decently for me. I actually prefer Sedley to this fragrance, but I've worn it 31 times. I've worn it more, and I know why. That's Percival. My wife loves Percival, so most of the time that I've worn it in the past several years has been with her in mind, and it's worked every time.
What do you mean by that?
I'm weird. Fresh, musky, spicy, aromatic, not quite as citrusy as Sedley, but a little bit so, but definitely not as fruity smelling. Honestly, again, I don't love it. It's fine. It's a great functional scent in terms of smelling fresh and clean and attractive for a long period of time. This will do it. And you can probably guess my number one, 52 wearings from Layton. Layton and I go way back. I loved Layton from when I first smelled it. I've loved it so much that I had to keep myself from wearing it so that it wouldn't permeate all of my videos all the time. I want to keep talking about newer stuff, but I can't deny Layton has had a place in my heart from day one, and it shows with all of these freaking wearings. A lot of these wearings actually came from a decant, a 10 milliliter decant that I had of Layton many years ago that I burned through, and then I've gotten quite a number of wearings from this bottle since I got it maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So anyway, Layton, the number one spot. Have you already called it? What could this be? I have 12 fragrances from this house. We have 280 total wears just from this house. Out of these 12 fragrances, 280 days of my life dedicated to one of these fragrances. The top 3 spots stand at third place 31, second place 36, first place 66. This still remains to be my most worn fragrance of all time, even though I've hardly worn it in the past few years. In first place, my favorite house, we'll just say my most worn house, is indubitably the house of Creed. Creed, some people say greed, say what you will, but Creed has occupied a majority of my fragrance wearing over the past 7 years. In third place with 31 wearings is Green Irish Tweed. This is also a timeless masterpiece if you're asking me, even though it came out in the 1980s. Fresh, green, and dewy, such a natural smelling composition that ambergris a beautiful, musky, almost salty, cooling air to the fragrance. It does smell like an early morning in a green meadow. Very refreshing, but very gentlemanly. In second place with 36 wearings, Millésime Impériale. For some time, this was my favorite from the house. I'd say for a good year or two, I was all about me some Millésime Impériale. This is as classy as aquatic can be while being approachable and very wearable. This is kind of a fruity, salty aquatic with a beautiful musk. And that musk is, I think, what makes it kind of alluring, even though it does mostly smell like a classy gentleman's fragrance, if you're asking me. But it can also be very versatile. This could be easily a casual summer staple on vacation or just hanging out. And it actually transitions very well from day to night. Millésime Impériale is kind of a closet workhorse. Really a special scent. Well, I know you're bored. I need to wake you up. So wake up for this last fragrance. You already knew what it was. That's why you got bored. This is Aventus. 66 wearings for this classic gentleman fragrance. A fruity sheep, mossy, woody, fresh, fruity, pineapple, apple, black currant. I don't need to say anything more about Aventus. It speaks for itself. You love it or hate it. Nonetheless, I don't wear it that much anymore. Similar to Layton, I've tried to get away from it because of how much it occupied my life in relation to my other fragrances. But I cannot deny I respect and enjoy the legacy that is Creed Aventus. That was a lot of fun. And again, some curveballs in there. So let me know what you think of this idea. Let me know what you think of my top threes from each house. And most importantly, let me know if you want me to reapproach this idea from the view of taste rather than numbers. It should prove to be an interesting video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.